Enrico walked slowly through the streets of Naples, the scorching sun beating down on his face. His once well-groomed black hair was now disheveled, a sign of days spent sleeping on the streets. He wore a threadbare shirt and time-worn pants. His eyes, which had once shone with hope, were now dull, signs of fatigue and hunger. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. Just a few months earlier, Enrico had a normal life, a job, a house, a future that seemed promising. But life had taken an unexpected turn. Loss of his job, financial problems, and finally the road. The weight of it all crushed him, but Enrico clung to that faint hope that something would change. Hunger had gripped him for days, but the thought of rummaging through garbage cans for food made him shiver. Sitting on the sidewalk of a side street, he watched the crowd pass by, indifferent to his presence. No one noticed him, no one stopped. Enrico felt invisible, but he kept repeating to himself, "Just one more day. Maybe tomorrow someone will notice me." But he knew, deep down, that it was a lie he was telling himself. One day, as he sat dejected, the smell of a hot sandwich reached him. A middle-aged woman stopped in front of him without saying a word, handed him a paper bag with something to eat. Enrico looked at her, surprised, with a lump in his throat that prevented him from speaking. "Thank you," he murmured in a trembling voice, while the smell of the food brought tears to his eyes. The woman walked away, leaving him there, still in disbelief at this act of kindness. She looked at the sandwich in her hands, then turned to two men sitting nearby, also in desperate conditions. Without hesitation, she divided the sandwich into 3 parts. "Let's share," she said with a tired smile. "No one should go hungry." Not far away, a young woman named Anna had been watching the whole scene. She had long brown hair and green eyes full of compassion. Enrico's gesture, who had shared his only meal with 2 other homeless people, deeply affected her. She was about to approach to offer her help, but a cold hand stopped her. "Don't you dare come near me, Anna," her mother Valeria said in a cold tone. "I won't let you mix with those people." Valeria was a rigid woman, obsessed with appearances and social prestige. She wore expensive clothes and treated with contempt anyone she considered inferior. "Mom, those people need help," Anna replied, her voice shaking with indignation. Valeria looked at her coldly. "You don't understand, my daughter. Those people have chosen their path. It's not our responsibility to help them." Valeria's words hit Anna like a punch in the stomach. How could her mother be so insensitive? As Valeria dragged her away, Anna turned to take one last look at Enrico. The young man had shared her only meal, and his act of kindness had left a deep impression on her. Despite her mother's harsh words, Anna felt the will to do something. A few days later, Enrico was still there on the same road trying to survive. An elegant figure stopped in front of him. It was Valeria, Anna's mother. "Are you the boy who shared his sandwich with the other poor wretches?" she asked with a cold smile. "Yes, ma'am," Enrico replied, confused. What could she want from him? Valeria looked at him carefully before speaking. "I have a proposal for you, one that could change your life," she said in a calculating tone. Valeria proposed to him that he marry her daughter Anna. The marriage was not for love, but to show Anna how foolish her desire to help the less fortunate was. She had to stop feeling sorry for those people. In exchange, Enrico would have a life of ease and comfort. "You will be generously rewarded. You will no longer have to worry about food or shelter, and you can even help your homeless friends," Valeria said in a seductive and contemptuous tone. Valeria's words tempted him. Enrico hesitated, torn between his pride and the possibility of changing his life. In the end, he agreed. The prospect of a better life and the possibility of helping others was too tempting. But Enrico knew that the marriage was a farce. He felt that Valeria was playing with him and his daughter, but for now he had no other choice. On her wedding day, Anna sat in front of the mirror, wearing a beautiful white dress. But that dress felt like a prison. She felt that something was wrong, that there was a secret behind that hasty ceremony, but she didn't know how to escape the fate her mother had imposed on her. Enrico at the altar felt out of place. His elegant suit made him feel like an imposter, and the judgmental looks of the guests made him shiver. He heard the whispers behind him, words full of contempt and prejudice. He was not a rich man, he was not worthy of Anna, and everyone in the church seemed to know it. But when Anna entered the church, Enrico felt something change. Their eyes met, and in that moment he understood that Anna was much more than just a victim of her mother. She was kind, compassionate, and for the first time, Enrico felt the weight of his decision. "But how did I come to accept that farce?" he said to himself. The ceremony went ahead, but when the priest asked if anyone had any objections, Valeria suddenly stood up. Silence fell over the church. "This wedding is a farce," she declared in an icy voice. "This boy is nothing but a beggar, and I arranged all this to show my daughter how foolish she is. Now she'll stop wasting her time with poor people." Enrico felt an uncontrollable urge. He looked at Anna, then at the guests, and finally turned to Valeria. He could no longer remain silent. He had to tell the truth. "I have something to say too," Enrico announced, his voice shaking but determined. The church fell into a tense silence. "I'm not just a beggar. I come from a rich family too." The guests looked at each other, surprised. Valeria seemed about to interrupt, but Enrico continued. "I was abandoned as a child. My mother left me to run away with another man, and my father didn't want to take care of me anymore. They threw me away like a useless burden." The silence in the church became oppressive. Enrico felt his heart pounding, but he continued. "I lived for years trying to understand why I was abandoned. I tried to survive alone, without a family who wanted me. But now I understand that it's not me who's different. It's them, my parents, who made a mistake. And you're making a mistake too, Valeria." Anna looked at him, tears filling her eyes. She understood Enrico's pain, his loneliness. She stood up and approached him, taking his hand. "You are not alone, Enrico," she said in a soft voice. "I can understand you." Valeria watched the scene, furious but now helpless. Her plan of humiliation had failed. Enrico had broken his chains and revealed his truth. The wedding was canceled. The guests, who had been silently watching the whole scene, turned to Valeria with looks full of contempt. Sharp whispers crossed the room, and one word made its way through the murmurs: "You are a mean person." Valeria, who until that moment had dominated the situation, suddenly found herself isolated, surrounded by judging eyes. Anna, without saying a word, took Enrico's hand, and together they left the church. They walked side by side, aware that they had found something much more precious than that forced marriage. They had discovered that they had in common the desire to be loved for who they really were, without having to pretend or hide. Outside the church, the sun shone as if the world was welcoming them into a new life. As they walked away hand in hand, they knew that their story, born in deception, could turn into something real. And you, do you believe in the power of casual encounters? Write it in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.